Hello everyone, welcome to a new vlog. I thought I would take the opportunity in this video just to talk a little bit about why me and Kyle have moved into a van and what led us up to this moment, as well as just showing you some shots of the past, I want to say week or so in France of us travelling along the coast. I've also added where we've been staying, just if you want to have a look yourself. A lot of these sites we've been staying at are on Search for Sites or Park for Night. You can find them there just if you're interested, if you're a fellow van lifer, camper vanner. But me and Kyle have always been interested in van life. I just don't think I ever thought I would live in a van full time, but yeah, I just thought I would take you through why we chose to live in a van and how we got here. So back in 2019 is when I graduated from uni. I studied art, and as I graduated I had a really severe panic attack, and that kind of led to a downhill spiral of my mental health. But coming out of graduating, I also threw myself into trying to find a tattoo apprenticeship and just trying to lift up my business. And at the time I was quite interested in screen printing and making my own t-shirts and a little bit of pottery here and there, but I really just threw myself into trying to find work and trying to build up a stable income. He's worked since he was about 16 as a kitchen fitter alongside his dad, so he had already kind of gotten himself a pretty stable income, but he's still a self-employed person. Then going into 2020, we all know COVID happened, so that was a bit of a depletion of my own mental health even further. I also started therapy in 2020 as well, so that was kind of a start of like my healing journey. And 2020 gave me time to work on my business and trying to really build my social media platforms and trying to kind of get up and moving, get an income going, and trying to push my business as much as possible. As we started to come out of COVID, me and Kyle ended up moving in together, and we talked about van life when I was at uni, as well as talking about it kind of continually. I think it was first Kyle who suggested, oh, wouldn't it be good if we could live in a van full time? And at the time I was like, absolutely not. I couldn't think of anything worse, just the idea of living in such a small space. And he even suggested the idea of living in a van and having a studio to rent. And I find it really funny looking back now, because that's what I'm suggesting now. Like I said, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if we could live in the van? And like I had my own pottery studio, or we had like a studio that we would co-share. But back then I just couldn't think of anything worse. I think at the time I really just needed physical space to breathe, because I was going through such a hard time with quite severe anxiety and probably a bit of depression as well. But I was trying my best, and I was going to therapy, so I was doing everything I could possibly do to kind of help myself in this kind of healing journey, while also trying to manage doing a tattoo apprenticeship and trying to kind of get work, freelance work, and everything that you kind of do as an artist. Then I want to say in 2022 or 2023 we ended up buying a van. So I was just, at the time I was just kind of getting through each day. Sorry, I do have Mango with me, and she makes little grumbly noises when she's about to fall asleep, so that was just her sighing. So during this time I was obviously quite a mentally unwell person, but I was trying my best, and I think I did really, really well despite feeling so anxious all the time. We moved in together, and I think that's when we started more seriously looking for a van, because we thought it would be a great opportunity to travel and give us access to travel, easier access to travel, and a bit cheaper as well. And it took Kyle, I think, about over a year to find a van, and a van that one worked with our budget but also was in good condition. And I think we just stumbled upon this van that was about £4,000, and it was in really good condition, and it's the van obviously that we have now. But I think because of COVID van prices really spiked, because a lot more people were doing staycations and staying locally, so it did take us a really long time to find a van. But when we did, it was amazing, and going to pick it up was so fab, and yeah, it was really exciting, and it was the start of our journey to living in a van. So we started working on it really slowly. As you can imagine, we didn't have too much money to pour into it at the time. We just had a bit of savings to buy the van, and it was a really slow process at first, but again, very, very exciting. So at that time we were living in a little house in Gateshead. That was our first official home together that we rented. Me and Kyle have been together for 10 years, but we've only lived together for less than half of that, just because of COVID and then me being at uni and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, we just carried on working and doing little bits on the van here and there. Again, nothing major. I think we just stripped it out and then started to very slowly insulate it. And then about that time, my grandma went into a care home, unfortunately. She suffered with dementia, and then that made her home available to rent. She owns her own home, so my mum and her sister wanted to rent it out just to get a bit of income in to help pay for her care. And then it had been on the market for over a year and nobody was interested, so then me and Kyle were kind of sick of living in Gateshead. We had a few little incidents where someone's car got broken into, my car got broken into, someone tried to get into our house at night time. Obviously our doors were locked and things like that, so it just became quite unsafe. We felt uneasy and we thought, why don't we go live at my grandma's house? There's the opportunity there. We could be paying like less rent and have a nicer house, a nicer garden, and we don't know how long we'll be in there for, but it could just be a nice change of scenery while we kind of get back on our feet and decide what we want to do. And I think at this time my mental health was depleting even more, and I eventually ended up giving up tattooing because it was just causing me so much anxiety, and I still am figuring out why that is and whether or not it's something I feel like I can come back to, or if it's something that I feel like I've outgrown. I'm not 100% sure just yet, but I'm still trying to figure that out. So we ended up moving into my grandma's house, which was so lovely. I think we both really loved living in that house and I found it very healing, and I never thought I'd ever live in the area that she lived in, just because, I don't know, I just never thought I would, but it was so lovely and it's so nice having such a big garden. And yeah, we just tried to carry on. It meant I also had a bigger space for my pottery stuff and my wheel, and it was so lovely just to have a bit more room to do all of that. And it was a longer commute for Kyle, but I think he felt quite happy knowing that the neighbourhood that we lived in was really cosy and our neighbours were so lovely and it felt quite safe, and we just carried on. So as I gave up the tattooing, I decided I was going to try pour all of my energy into my business and try and make sales through prints and my pottery and things like that. But I think I was just completely burnt out at the time, and I think I ultimately started to really struggle with making a living from my creativity. I think I even started struggling with that through the tattooing as well. Just the pressure of earning from what I do creatively just felt really, really overwhelming. And I think by that point, a lot of the streams of income that I had built up had gone away, or I hadn't been able to maintain them. So that balance that I felt like I once had with creativity and my financial income had kind of gone. And so I started just to rely on one single source of income, which was either the tattooing, or I started to rely on the pottery. It just ultimately made me very unhappy, I think. And I just kind of got to a point where I felt sick of it all and kind of even questioned, did I even want to be an artist anymore? Because it just felt so overwhelmingly hard. And I think as well, I never feel like it's to do with my art personally. I just feel like it's a reflection on the economy and how the world is at the minute. I think a lot of artists are struggling. I don't think it's just me. I can see it kind of everywhere. Small businesses really, really struggling. So after a year of finding things really difficult and not being able to build my small business, I ended up getting a little part-time job in a gallery I used to work at a while ago, which I think you've seen in some of my earlier vlogs, which was so nice and so what I needed. I think I had started to apply for part-time jobs about a few months before I had gotten my old job back, but it was so depleting looking for part-time work and getting rejections and not even getting interviews, and you kind of think like, oh, am I the problem? Is it me? But I don't really know. I think the job market seems to be quite difficult at the minute, and I just wanted something that was easy and I could just go, know exactly what I'm doing, come home and just chill out and not feeling like I'm bringing work home with me. So it just came at the right time, and I can't thank the gallery enough, and I absolutely love it there. And it really gave me a confidence boost, as I think I just felt a bit like I don't really know what I'm doing in life. So what else can I do? I don't feel like I'm good at anything else than my art, and if my art's not working, then what? So I started to get a bit more of an income, and then that relieved some of the pressure from my art. And then I think I even stopped making art for a bit because I just felt like it wasn't giving me joy anymore. And then my grandma unfortunately ended up passing away, which then meant, because she passed away, it would mean we would have to sell the house because care is absolutely extortionate, and we'd have to use the sale of the house to pay off a debt that she had racked up, because I don't know anyone who can pay for that kind of care, because it is really expensive, but it's obviously very needed. So we had a few options to look at, which was renting again, but we didn't really know where we wanted to rent or how we wanted to do that. We could look into the possibility of getting a mortgage maybe, but we're both self-employed, so we felt like that possibility was very, very slim and could be very, very difficult. And then the last option was to move into the van full time, and that option, although was the last option, it was the scariest and it felt the most nerve-wracking, because then we had obviously had this dream of moving into the van and just kind of stepping away from life a bit and just going full time, both of us, because Kyle as well had gotten to the point a few years ago where he was finding work quite stressful and was really sick of it and felt quite unhappy with it and just wasn't enjoying it, getting up every morning, and I think that's quite a difficult position to be in as well. So we had both just gotten to the point where we felt really sick of what we were doing and felt very unhappy, and we wanted a change, and this was just the perfect opportunity to take that risk and just be like, you know what, let's just try do this full time. So with savings and a little bit of inheritance left over from the house, we ended up putting a chunk of money together and putting it into the van, and we decided for the next 3 months or so we were going to go full into doing this renovation. I say we, it was mainly Kyle. Kyle's a kitchen fitter, so he has all those very handy skills needed to do a van. I mean, to be honest, he also became electrician and a plumber in the process, but he did an amazing job on this van. I kind of helped with the decoration and I was there as an assistant, I think, but we just ended up just saying kind of fuck it, we're going to just do this. So you've seen some videos of the van build. I think I've got a few videos of the renovation of the van build, and we cracked on with that for 3 months. It was full on, a bit stressful at times. I was looking after the dog full time on my own as well, living at home with my mum and dad's dog, so it was all a bit chaotic, but we ended up doing it. So it was the start of August when we set off for our first month full-time van life in Scotland, as I thought Scotland would be the perfect place to start, just in case we had any issues or we needed to come back, or if there's any emergencies, or if we decided we really didn't like van life. We weren't too far away from home. I found it really interesting the way that I feel like I've changed over the few years leading up to us going full-time van life. As I said previously, it was something that I thought I could never do, but I think just through therapy and I think as well just feeling the pressures of making money to pay for rent, to pay for bills, to pay for tax, to pay for all of those things just felt so enormous, especially because I'm a small artist, a small creative. I don't make lots and lots of things, and I don't particularly want to make tons and tons of money. I just always would like to live comfortably, as I think a lot of people do, and I always feel like I'm really lucky to be able to have chosen to do this life. And I don't know how long van life will last for us, because again, it's dependent on money really, but at the moment it just feels so liberating, and I'm so pleased that I took the risk. And I would always advise anyone to take risks, because I just feel like me and Kyle are both probably quite in good positions where if everything did go quote unquote wrong, we could integrate ourselves back into that norm of life. But I think I would have seriously regretted not taking this risk if we hadn't, because if everything went wrong, then we do have a great support system and really lovely family to fall back on, which we're really fortunate to have. But I would advise anyone to just take the risk. I think as well it's really brave and really important to step outside society and step away from society, because I feel like that's kind of what we're doing. We're stepping outside and stepping away from the norm of life, and I don't think we've ever wanted the kind of norm of what's presented to you in life, where it's the getting married or having children and then buying a house and then paying off the mortgage. I think we've always wanted something a bit more and a bit different, and living a bit more freely and kind of not in that bracket of society, which is there's nothing wrong with that in the slightest. I think everyone's different and everyone has their own goals, and success looks very different to everyone, but I think for us this definitely feels a big success in our lives, and we're so excited to explore France and Spain and Portugal and the beyond, whatever that takes us. But I'm very, very hopeful that something will present itself where we can continue to live this life in the van, and we will be able to balance money. And hopefully for me, being an artist, I'd love to get an art studio and do my pottery and do Patreon and just be really creative and for that to flourish. But I'm very aware that those things take time, and I'm happy for them to take time. But yeah, so I just wanted to share this little story with you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this little video. It's a little bit different. But I will see you in the next one, and thank you so much for being here. But feel free to subscribe and like the channel. It all helps in supporting me, and it will all help towards sustaining this life a little bit longer, so I really appreciate it. But thank you so much. Bye.
you.